Desire is not a torment. It is not some cruel trick played on the heart to remind you of what you lack. Desire is a whisper from your deeper self, the part of you that already knows the path, already holds the key, and already lives the very reality you think you are waiting for. The trouble is not in the longing, but in how we've been conditioned to treat that longing as a distance to chase rather than a possession to claim. When you feel the urge for a new job, a better position, a calling you've not yet lived, you're not being teased by the universe, you're being summoned by it. That inner nudge, that spark of, I want this, isn't arising from the ego. It's coming from the imaginal self that already contains it. It's as if your higher self is saying, here, see what's yours. See what I already am. But we are so used to struggling and earning, to measuring and comparing, that we doubt our own instinct. We ask, am I good enough? Will they pick me? Do I qualify? And in doing so, we overlook the greater truth. You wouldn't even desire it if it weren't already yours in spirit. Let's make it simple. Anything you long for with intensity, clarity, and repeated emotion is a signal from your inner world trying to break into the outer one. But because we've grown up in systems that teach lack, not abundance, we label our desires as fantasy. We fear they're impossible. And yet, the only impossibility is the belief that you are separate from the thing you want. You're not. You are the container of it. You are the projector and receiver. What you long for is not far away. It's just not yet assumed. So the first lesson is this. Desire is sacred. It is the starting place of creation. It is not something to deny or suppress. It's not your job to question the desire, but to follow it inward, to nurture it until it becomes so familiar, so natural, that it feels like your current reality. That feeling, that assumption, is the bridge between imagination and manifestation. But how do you handle a desire when everything around you contradicts it? When the bank account is empty, or you've been rejected 5 times this month, or your current job is draining the life out of you. You close your eyes. You step into the unseen. You honor the desire not as a hope, but as a knowing. You say to yourself, this longing is not foolish. This is the future speaking to me through feeling. And then you feel as if it's already yours. You begin to embody the end, not the wait. Too many people sit in longing without ever crossing the threshold into belief. They say, one day I'll get that job, while continuing to identify as someone without it. But identification is the secret. You can't remain unemployed in thought while trying to manifest employment in form. You must marry the desire. You must see yourself not as someone chasing the position, but as someone who already lives it, moves through it, and enjoys its benefits. That's why daydreaming is not enough. A fantasy held at arm's length doesn't create, but a fantasy felt as present, a scene imagined with full sensory richness and emotional authenticity, that's the beginning of manifestation. When you treat your desire like memory, not imagination, you change your identity. And once identity shifts, the outer world bends to match it. All creation begins and ends with identity. Ask not, what do I want? Ask, who must I be to live this now, and then become that self within. Sit in the role of the person who is already doing the work they love. See through their eyes, think their thoughts, respond to life as they would. Do it so often that you forget you were ever anything else. That's when the world starts to move. That's when synchronicities align, people call, jobs open, paths appear, but only because the inner state shifted first. The job doesn't come to you. You draw it by becoming its match. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are conscious of being. So if you are aware of lack, you draw more evidence of lack. But if you become aware of abundance, you become the doorway through which it walks into form. Desire, then, is the signal, but feeling is the mechanism. If you want to live your dream job, don't study resumes or compare yourself to others or refresh job boards hoping for rescue. Go within, sit still, imagine the end, occupy it with joy, feel the gratitude of having already received it. Dwell there often until it becomes more real than the doubt. This isn't wishful thinking, it's lawful creating. It's what every great teacher hinted at and what every truly fulfilled person lives, whether they know it or not. They do not beg life, they assume. They feel the reality before it's visible. They thank the unseen before it's seen. and they hold steady in that inner state while the outer one rearranges itself. If you're called to a dream job, trust that the calling didn't come from nowhere. It's not a fantasy. It's a fact awaiting form. Your only job is to feel it real. And in doing so, you prove that all things are possible to the one who assumes. If you truly want to see your life change, you must stop living in the waiting room. You cannot keep standing at the door of your dream job, knocking politely, hoping someone on the other side will hear you. The only way the door opens is when you walk through it inwardly, when you assume fully and unapologetically that you already belong on the other side. It is not arrogance. It is alignment. When you assume the feeling of already being hired, you bypass the endless waiting, the endless doubting, the endless justifying of why things haven't happened yet. You no longer live as someone hoping for a job. You begin to breathe as someone who already has it. You step into the role mentally, emotionally, and spiritually before the world catches up. And it will catch up. Because the outer world is only ever mirroring the state you occupy within. There is a strange magic in this act. It doesn't require evidence. It doesn't need you to justify yourself. It only asks for faith. Not in some external force, but in your own ability to embody the end result. If you want to work at a specific company, imagine what it feels like to already have the desk, the conversations, the welcome email, the morning commute. Feel the rhythm of your day in that role. Let your body rehearse the movements. Let your emotions anticipate the joy. Let your mind practice the confidence of already belonging. People often ask, how can I pretend something that isn't true? But that's the point. It's not pretending, it's creating. And all creation begins in the unseen. You weren't hired out there before you were hired in here. The moment you accept that truth inwardly, you cause a ripple effect that shapes the outer world. You no longer apply as someone trying to be chosen. You apply as someone confirming what already is. This is not the same as positive thinking. It's deeper. It's not about tricking yourself with motivational words. It's about truly assuming the state of already being the person who lives your desire. It's not about just imagining a paycheck or an office, although you can. It's about identifying with the version of you who already made it. Once that identity is firm, everything else becomes inevitable. You don't need to beg. You don't need to worry. The only thing you need to do is accept the gift as already delivered. The feeling of being hired is not something you earn after the fact. It's something you inhabit now. That feeling becomes your compass. It directs your actions, influences your energy, sharpens your intuition. You begin speaking with more certainty, standing with more presence, approaching every opportunity as if it's confirming what you already knew. That's the paradox. When you stop needing it, when you stop trying to chase it, it comes because your energy is no longer saying, I don't have it. It's saying it's done. And life only ever echoes your assumptions. If you assume you're still searching, the world will give you more searches. But if you assume the search is over and the job is yours, the world must reflect that. You might be asking, what if I feel like I'm lying to myself? That's where discipline comes in. Your feelings are not your master. They are your mirror. If they resist, persist. You are training your inner self to adopt a new position. The more you return to the scene in your mind where you are already hired, already successful, already celebrated, the more natural it becomes. It starts to feel less like imagination and more like memory. And when it feels like memory, reality rushes in to support it. Practice this every day, not for hours, just long enough for the feeling to settle. Sit in the quiet and build the scene. Don't analyze, don't ask how, just enter into it. Hear someone congratulate you. Hear yourself say, I knew it was mine. Feel the softness of peace replacing the anxiety of waiting. This isn't about getting something. This is about being someone. That version of you, the hired one, the fulfilled one, already exists. Your job is to return to that version so often that it becomes your dominant identity. You'll know when you've succeeded because you'll stop feeling desperate. You'll stop refreshing your email. You'll stop thinking in terms of lack. Instead, you'll begin to expect good news. You'll start moving as someone who is already aligned. And that subtle shift in expectation is powerful. It changes your posture, your voice, your presence. And because people respond to that energy, your reality changes with it. Even the most complex job search can be resolved by a simple shift in consciousness. No more striving, no more trying to convince others to see your worth. Instead, let your inner world be the proof. Assume the feeling of already being hired. Let it color your thoughts, reshape your habits, and soften your doubts. When you make that internal change, the external has no choice but to comply. Because the law is simple. You are always becoming what you are being. And being begins in feeling. If there is one truth that can reshape your entire experience of life, it is this. Your job does not come from people. It doesn't come from companies. It doesn't even come from your resume, your education, or your network. Your job, the one your soul longs for, comes from your state of consciousness. That's the real employer. And until you shift that inner state, the outer world will only reflect back to you what you've been unconsciously assuming to be true about yourself. You see, we've all been trained to think that we are hired by people out there, judged by systems, evaluated by forms and numbers and interviews. And while yes, the outer process exists, it's only the shadow of something far greater, the inner declaration of who you believe you are. You're not waiting for someone else to employ you. You are hiring yourself in consciousness right now, every single moment, by the state you choose to dwell in. Let me explain this clearly. If you walk through life believing deep down that you are overlooked, underqualified, or just another number in the system, then no matter how polished your resume is, or how many jobs you apply to, you will continue to experience confirmation of that belief, because your outer world is only responding to the inner state you have accepted as real. But the moment you shift that state, even slightly, you change the employer. You go from being someone trying to be hired to someone who has already been chosen. You begin to feel like you belong. And that sense of belonging is a magnetic force. People feel it, even if they don't consciously know what they're responding to. They are simply reacting to the vibration you carry, the one that says, I am already it. I have already received it. I know who I am. When you understand that consciousness is the source of all employment, you stop chasing, you stop waiting, you stop putting your worth in the hands of others. You reclaim it. And the beautiful irony is when you stop trying so hard to prove yourself to the world starts to reflect your certainty back to you. This shift is not about arrogance. It's about truth. It's about quietly, inwardly knowing that you're more than enough, that your value doesn't need to be measured by salary brackets or titles or approval. You measure your value by the state you occupy within. And the state you live in becomes the script your life performs. So if you feel unemployed, underpaid, or overlooked, don't look out there, look within. What role are you playing in your own mind? Are you the rejected one? The one who's always late to the opportunity? The one who gets passed over because others have better qualifications? If that's the identity you've rehearsed, even unconsciously, then life has no choice but to reflect it. But here's the secret. You can hire yourself into a new role right now. You don't need permission. You don't need validation. You only need awareness. The moment you realize you've been living from a diminished self-esteem, you can step out of it and choose another. You can say, I am valuable. I am exactly what this role needs. I am already seen, chosen, and celebrated. And you don't need the world to agree right away. You only need to agree with yourself. That agreement, the one you make internally, is the contract that matters. It's invisible, but it's binding. When you dwell in the consciousness of already having the job, already being fulfilled, already showing up as your highest self, you activate the only hiring process that counts. Because the world always gives you who you're being, not who you're trying to be. Think of your consciousness as a stage. Whatever you place at the center becomes the lead role. If fear is center stage, your actions will follow fear. If doubt is the lead, then everything else will bow to its script. But if certainty, confidence, and success take the lead, the supporting cast, your life, your circumstances, your opportunities will rearrange accordingly. So what does this mean practically? It means you start your day with inner authority. You don't wake up and ask, what's missing? You wake up and affirm, what is already true within me? You walk into a room not to impress, but to express the energy of someone who already knows their place. You take each step not hoping to be hired, but carrying the peace of someone who has already been chosen. It also means you take inspired action, not desperate action. You apply for roles not because you're afraid of missing out, but because they align with the version of you that you've already assumed. Your energy becomes focused, not scattered. Your communication becomes confident, not performative. And opportunities start appearing, not because you're chasing them, but because you've become a match to them. Every time you react to the outer world as if it holds the power, you disempower yourself. But every time you return to the knowing that your inner state is the real source of your employment, your worth, your direction, you reclaim your authority. And let me tell you something real. The people who get hired quickly, the ones who seem to always land the best roles, they're not always the most talented. They're often the ones who carry an inner conviction. They've already hired themselves in consciousness, and the outer employer simply agrees. So if you want to manifest your dream job, don't beg for a seat at the table. Build the table in your imagination. Sit down at it every day. Feel the conversation, the responsibility, the fulfillment. Get used to being there. Because once you've become it inside, life will have no choice but to promote you into the role you've already been rehearsing. You've probably heard it said 100 different ways. It's a tough market. No one's hiring right now. The economy is down. Too many applicants, not enough openings. These phrases are repeated like mantras by people who have no idea what power lives inside them. And the tragedy is the more you repeat them, the more you believe them. The more you believe them, the more they become true for you. But here's the truth that remains untouched no matter how grim the statistics look. There is no shortage in the infinite. There is no lack in consciousness. Jobs don't dry up in the realm of imagination. Opportunities don't shrink when you're aligned with your higher state. Scarcity may be the popular narrative in the world, but abundance is the law of your being. When you say there's a shortage, what you're really saying is, I believe the outside world is more powerful than my inner world. That's the true root of limitation, not the economy, not your resume, not your location. The real blockage is the moment you start treating appearances as final and forget that you are the one who gives life to form. You are never responding to the world is responding to you. So if your state of consciousness is one of contraction, if you're focused on what's missing, what's unfair, who's ahead of you, you will see nothing but closed doors. Not because the doors aren't there, but because your inner world is clouded with assumptions of lack. Scarcity is not an external fact. It is a state you either enter or exit by your assumption. There are people being hired right now. There are promotions happening today, interviews, offers, unexpected calls, life-changing emails. These are not paused because of the news. They are always happening. The only question is, are you tuned into the frequency where those things become part of your world? The only thing you ever need to ask is, what am I assuming to be true about myself and the world I live in? Because that assumption becomes your lens. It filters everything you see. It becomes your weather, your atmosphere, your environment. So let's say you're applying for jobs. You've sent out 20 applications and haven't heard back. It's easy to conclude there's nothing out there for me, but that thought is not a fact. It's a choice, a state. And if you accept it, you lock yourself into that version of reality. You unknowingly say yes to it. But what if you choose differently? What if, despite the silence, you declare, something is happening behind the scenes. My position is preparing for me. The doors are opening even if I can't yet see the hinges move. That assumption shifts your entire field. And once your field changes, opportunities that felt stuck begin to flow. They don't come because you work harder. They come because you are aligned with the idea that abundance is still active. And let's be honest, what's more powerful? A frantic job search driven by panic, or a calm, steady mind that knows something better is already arranged? Most people build their lives reacting to circumstances, but the mystic builds life from the inside out. You don't need the job to appear first in the material world. You need it to be fully accepted in your imagination. Once that happens, the rest is already on its way. There is never a true shortage of jobs. What often happens is a shortage of alignment. People believe in limitation more than possibility. They invest emotionally in the story of not enough. They join the collective chant of things are hard. And that frequency becomes their home. But you can choose to live elsewhere. You can take up residence in the state of everything I need is already mine. That state is not fantasy. It is more real than your bank balance or the headlines. The material world is delayed. It is the echo of your previously held beliefs. So if you want to change what the world shows you, change what you're echoing inwardly. Walk through your day as if the job already exists. Talk about it, think about it, feel into it, not as some distant hope, but as a quiet confidence. Know that the infinite does not run out of paths. If one door closes, a better one exists. If one interview fails, it was never meant for you. You are not in competition with anyone. You are in alignment with yourself. And when that alignment is clear, the so-called scarcity vanishes. You do not live in a world of limits. You live in a field of imagination, and your assumptions are the seeds. Do you plant seeds of lack or seeds of plenty? That's the real job search. Not in the applications, but in the atmosphere you carry. When someone says, it's hard out there, let your inner voice respond, but not for me. Not in arrogance, but in clarity. Not in denial of facts, but in awareness of truth. Because the moment you choose abundance, your world begins to reflect it. Stop looking around and start looking within. You are not waiting for the market to change. You are the market. You are the law. You are the source through which every opportunity must pass. So speak of the open doors. Picture the email of congratulations. Feel the paycheck in your hands. Hear your loved ones celebrating you. Not someday. Now. And from that state, jobs won't feel scarce. They will feel inevitable. Every imaginal act is a seed planted in the fertile soil of your consciousness. And like any seed, it requires time, care, and faith to blossom. The great mistake people often make is assuming that if something doesn't appear immediately in the physical world, it isn't working. But nothing could be further from the truth. The moment you imagine something with feeling, when you see it, hear it, touch it in your inner world, you have begun a process more real than anything your five senses can grasp. You see, the unseen world is the causal world. That means everything you experience on the outside has already been imagined, accepted, and nurtured within before it ever takes form. It is the invisible blueprint behind the visible structure. And just because you can't see a seed growing underground doesn't mean it isn't taking root. In fact, the most important part of its growth happens where your eyes can't reach. When you imagine yourself working your dream job, sitting at your ideal desk, speaking to clients with confidence, receiving that salary, you are sowing a reality. You are placing a demand on the unseen, and it must respond. But what happens to most people is that they plant this seed once, maybe twice, and then start checking the soil every hour, wondering why there's no sprout. Doubt creeps in, and with it comes mental digging. They question, they undo, they worry, and in doing so, they disturb the growth process. You must persist. You must trust the process, even when the outer facts seem unchanged. Just because nothing has happened yet doesn't mean nothing is happening. There is a gestation period for every desire, just like in nature. No farmer plants a seed and wakes up angry the next morning because there's no fruit. They understand the principle of time and seasons, and so must you when it comes to manifesting your dream job. Let the world say what it wants. Let others tell you it's not possible, that the industry is too competitive, that you don't have the right qualification. Let your current circumstances scream the opposite of your desire. It doesn't matter. What matters is what you are sustaining in your imagination. Your job is not to argue with facts. It is to hold firm to truth. And the truth is this: what you consistently imagine with feeling and accept as real must externalize in your world. You do not need to force outcomes. You don't need to beg life for proof. What you need is discipline, not in the outer world, but in the inner one. Discipline to return again and again to the state of the wish fulfilled. Discipline to see yourself not as the one seeking, but as the one who has already received. That mental persistence, done daily and quietly, is more powerful than any strategy, hustle, or job hunting technique. It's the creative act that turns possibility into fact. There will be moments when doubt tries to pull you back. There will be mornings when nothing has changed, and you wonder if this is all just fantasy. That is when you persist, not with strain, not with force, but with quiet conviction. You remind yourself that your imagination is not fiction. It is form in its earliest stage. Just as a child is still real before it is born, so is your desire once it has been impressed on your consciousness. Think of it this way: the seed doesn't need your worry. It needs your warmth. It needs your consistent attention, your belief in the unseen process, and your assumption that feeling of "this is already mine" is the water and sunlight your dream requires. Don't starve it with fear. Don't scorch it with doubt. Nourish it with repetition, with gratitude, with inner celebration. You might not know how it will come. You don't need to. That part is not yours to manage. You are not the builder of the bridge. You are the one who walks across it once it appears. Your task is to live in the state of already having it, to imagine the end scene over and over until it becomes second nature, until your imagination starts to feel like memory. And that's a turning point. When you've imagined something so vividly, so frequently, that it feels more familiar than your current reality, you have shifted. The inner world has become more solid to you than the outer one, and from that point forward, the outer world must realign. So persist. Let others get caught in appearances. Let them obsess over timing and strategy. You have something far more powerful. You have access to the root, and once the root is nourished, the fruit must follow. Your dream job is not somewhere out there in a distant future. It is inside you, waiting to be seen, accepted, and assumed. Keep returning to the feeling of being hired. Keep hearing the congratulations. Keep touching that desk in imagination, typing that welcome email, laughing with those co-workers you haven't yet met. These moments, lived inwardly, are planting an unshakable reality. And if you hold to them, if you persist, no matter what the outside says, you will find yourself one day walking into the very scene you once lived behind closed eyes. It will feel natural. It will feel inevitable, because you've already been there so many times before. Rejection is not the end of a thing. It's a mirror, a reflection of the inner state you're still holding on to. And until you revise it, it will echo. You see, most people take rejection as evidence that something isn't meant for them. They accept it, they wear it like a badge, and even begin to expect it. But what they don't realize is that they are cementing an assumption, a version of themselves as not chosen, not good enough, always passed over. And as long as that assumption remains in place, the future must continue to match it. But you are never at the mercy of what has happened. You are not bound to live inside the memory of someone else's no. The truth is, rejection is only a message your outer world sends you based on an older state of consciousness you once occupied. And if the outer world is simply the outpicturing of your inner world, then the answer is not to mourn the no, it is to revise it. Not with desperation, not to force someone to change their mind, but to change your own. The moment you received that rejection, whether it was an email, a conversation, a silence, you felt something. Perhaps it was disappointment, frustration, even shame. That emotional response, left untouched, becomes a living memory that keeps showing up. But what if, instead of replaying it with pain, you rewrite it with power? What if, instead of saying, they turned me down, you go into imagination and hear them saying, we'd love to have you. You're exactly who we're looking for. This is not lying to yourself. This is revising the record. You're not denying that the event occurred. You're choosing not to give it lasting power in your subconscious. Because the subconscious doesn't care what's real or unreal. It only accepts what's impressed upon it repeatedly with feeling. So if you let the feeling of rejection settle, it will multiply. But if you revise it immediately or even days later, you neutralize its power. You interrupt the cycle. Let me be clear, revision is not about pretending, it's about choosing. It's about refusing to let a temporary outer condition become a permanent inner identity. Too many people live in the echo of past wounds because they never updated the blueprint. They never revisited the memory with a new truth. And so they continue to attract the same experiences, the same closed doors over and over. You are allowed to change the story. In fact, you're instructed to, because you are the only one who ever lived it from the inside. You're the one who assigns meaning. You are the one who carries the scene around. So take ownership of that authority. Go back, close your eyes, and replay the moment, this time as it should have gone. Not to erase the past, but to plant a new seed from which a better outcome can grow. Maybe the interviewer looked unimpressed. Maybe the call never came. Maybe the company went in a different direction. Fine. That was the version written from the previous state you lived in. But now, from your new state, you craft a new scene. You see yourself walking out of the room with a light heart. You hear someone say, we'll be in touch soon. We loved your energy. You imagine opening your inbox and seeing the subject line, congratulations. And as you do this, something subtle but powerful happens. You shift your concept of self. No longer are you the one who gets rejected. Now you are the one who is remembered, desired. And here's the most fascinating part. Your outer world will follow suit. Not always through the same people or companies, but through new ones that match your revised state, a new email, a surprising offer, a second chance where the first seemed gone. Because life listens not to your past, but to your present assumption. Some might say, but isn't that delusion? Isn't it silly to change what already happened? And I would ask, is it more silly to replay pain over and over and call it truth? If your mind replays the scene anyway, why not give it a new outcome? Why not feed the subconscious a version of events that empowers you instead of eroding your confidence? What you revise, you release. What you reimagine, you reprogram. It's not about rewriting history in the world. It's about rewriting your identity in consciousness. And from that new identity, new results must follow. Make it a practice. Anytime something undesirable happens, especially in your journey toward your dream job, take a moment, go within and revise it. If you stuttered in the interview, revise it. If they didn't reply to your email, revise it. If you felt small in a meeting, revise it. Do it with feeling, do it with conviction, and do it consistently. Because the future is made from the quality of your inner scenes, and those scenes can be edited at will. You don't have to accept every no as final. You don't have to carry old wounds into new opportunities. You can be free of it. And freedom begins in imagination. The question isn't, did it happen? The question is, will I let this define me? And the answer should always be no, not unless I want it to. So if you've been told you're not enough, revise it. If you've been let down, revise it. If life seemed to delay the very thing you long for, go back and declare that it arrived right on time. The moment you do, you break the loop. You rewrite the script. You recondition the mind. And soon enough, the world will no longer reject you. It will recognize you. Because it has no choice but to honor the version of yourself you now assume to be true. Action without belief is noise. It's motion without momentum. You can send out 1,000 resumes, attend every career fair, make dozens of cold calls, but if beneath all that movement is a subtle assumption that you still aren't enough, that effort will echo with resistance. You're not rewarded just for what you do. You're rewarded for who you believe you are while you do it. Everything flows from that. Belief is the hidden engine. It quietly runs beneath your words, your posture, your choices. And when belief is aligned with your desire, when you assume that your dream job is already yours in consciousness, then your actions begin to reflect that inner certainty. They're no longer desperate. They're no longer guessing. They become intuitive, precise, and bold. This is why so many people take all the right steps, but still find themselves stuck. Because the action isn't coming from faith, it's coming from fear. And fear-driven action often leads to delay. But when action flows from belief, even small steps carry tremendous weight. A single application, filled out from the mindset of, I am already hired, carries more power than 100 sent in frustration or self-doubt. You begin to notice the shift in subtle ways. You feel drawn to apply for a position you might have once ignored. You feel guided to message someone or accept an invitation that leads to the exact opportunity you were preparing for. This is not random. These nudges, these inner promptings are your outer steps catching up to your inner reality. You moved there first in imagination. Now, you're simply walking the path that belief has paid for you. But here's the key. You don't act to make it happen. You act because it already has. You're not taking steps to get the job. You're taking steps because inwardly the job is done. You're responding to a world that's already shifted. You're moving as the version of yourself that already lives the reality you've imagined. That difference may sound subtle, but it's everything. Most people act from a place of lack. They send emails hoping someone will see their worth. They show up to interviews hoping to be chosen. Their energy says, please complete me. But when you act from the end, from the assumption that it is already done, you carry a very different frequency. You're not asking to be chosen. You are choosing. You are aligning. And life can feel that. When belief leads, confidence follows. You speak differently. You write differently. Even your silence carries weight. Why? Because belief eliminates hesitation. It clears the static. You know who you are. You know what's yours. And you're no longer trying to prove it. You're simply expressing it. You can't fake that. You can't manufacture that energy through force or mimicry. It only comes through assumption. When you've sat deeply enough in the end, when you've imagined the job is yours, the office is yours, the success is yours, then belief begins to embody itself in your behavior. You don't need to force your way into a room. You enter it as if you belong there, because in your mind you already do. And this is where magic happens. You'll say things you didn't plan to say. You'll meet people you didn't plan to meet. You'll take a different route, open a random link, stumble into a conversation, and all of it feels effortless. Not because you planned it, but because your inner state magnetized it. This is not coincidence. This is coherence. Your inner world and outer world begin to reflect each other so precisely it feels orchestrated. And it is, but the conductor was your consciousness all along. Understand this, belief activates the bridge of incidents. Once you've moved into the state of already having your dream job, life begins to assemble a perfect sequence of events to bring it into view. But these events often look ordinary. They come dressed as coincidences, small suggestions, casual opportunities. If you're not alert, you might dismiss them. But if you're grounded in your assumption, you'll recognize them immediately. You'll know, this is my next step. And you'll take it, not out of pressure, but out of joy. That's how you begin to move in rhythm with life instead of against it. There is no more forcing, no more chasing. Your action becomes inspired. And inspired action is never exhausting, it energizes. Because it's not pulling you towards something far away. It's unveiling something already within reach. Even rejection begins to look different when belief is your foundation. You won't take it personally. You'll know it's just a signpost redirecting you to something even more aligned. You won't spiral into doubt. You'll return to the assumption, it is already mine. And from that place, you'll keep moving, not frantically, but faithfully. So if you want your actions to work, don't start with them, start with belief, start with identity. Ask yourself, who am I being right now? If the answer is someone who still doesn't have it, pause, re-enter the end, assume the job is already done, feel it, live it, and then move, not to get it, but to receive it. Because when belief leads the way, life follows. Doors open, people say yes, the email comes, the offer is made, and you look back and realize, I didn't make this happen, I became it. And it came to me. Gratitude is not a reaction, it is a creation. And until you learn to give thanks for what you have not yet seen, you are still waiting to believe. But true creation begins with thanksgiving. You don't express gratitude because you've received. You express gratitude to signal that you've already accepted inwardly what life is in the process of revealing. To say thank you before something shows up in your experience is the highest form of trust. It's the quiet declaration that says, I don't need to see the evidence to know it's mine. It's the posture of someone who already possesses, who already lives in the state of the wish fulfilled. Gratitude is how you tell life, I believe you, I know you heard me, I know it's already done. Most people delay gratitude. They reserve it for outcomes. They wait until the offer is on the table, the salary is confirmed, the email says congratulations. Then they breathe a sigh of relief and whisper thank you. But by that time, they've missed the point. That gratitude is late. That's appreciation, yes, but it's not the kind of gratitude that moves mountains. The gratitude that transforms reality happens before the thing arrives. It happens when your senses tell you nothing is working, but your soul tells you it's already yours. You must learn to thank life while the page is still blank, while the inbox is still silent, while the outer world still shows no sign of change. Because that is when your gratitude holds weight. That's when it becomes creative energy. Gratitude is the evidence of belief. When you walk through your day with the spirit of thank you in your heart, even before the physical manifestation comes, you activate the law in your favor. Try this. Before you check the job board again, pause and say, thank you for the perfect role that already belongs to me. Before the interview, even before you're scheduled, say thank you for the opportunity that is already aligned with my higher self. Before anyone chooses you, thank life for already placing you where you're meant to be. That is the kind of gratitude that moves from imagination to reality. And here's why it works. The moment you give thanks for something, you assume possession of it. You wouldn't thank someone for a gift you don't believe you're going to receive. You thank them because in your heart you've already accepted it. Gratitude then is not a nice gesture. It's a declaration of ownership. You can feel the difference in your body. When you say, please let this happen, you feel tense, unsure, leaning forward, hoping. But when you say, thank you for this job, thank you for this purpose, thank you for the fulfillment, your body relaxes, you open up. You move into the vibration of already having. And that shift, that softening, is when you step into alignment. Gratitude changes your posture. You walk differently. You speak with more certainty. You make decisions from a place of abundance, not fear. And others feel that. Even if they can't explain it, they respond to it. Your confidence, your peace, your joy, it all becomes magnetic, and life reflects it back to you. Think of gratitude as a tuning fork. When you strike it, your whole energy field begins to vibrate in harmony with your desired state. And once you're vibrating at that level, you attract what belongs at that level. You don't need to chase it. You simply draw it in by the signal you're sending out. And gratitude is the clearest signal of all. This is why people who live in constant appreciation often find themselves lucky. It's not luck, it's alignment. They are always saying thank you. Not because everything is perfect, but because they've trained themselves to see perfection before it's visible. They've learned to celebrate the seed, not just the fruit. You can do the same. Right now, you can close your eyes and feel the joy of waking up to a job that fulfills you. You can walk through your current day as if your dream job is already secured. You can smile, breathe deeply, and whisper thank you. Not to anyone in particular, but to life itself. For hearing you, for shaping itself to fit your assumption. And the beauty is, the more gratitude you feel, the less pressure you place on how or when it will happen. You're no longer checking the clock, refreshing your email, or comparing yourself to others. You're living in the afterglow of something you've already received inwardly. And because you no longer resist the timeline speeds up. That is the paradox. When you stop needing the job to prove something, when you stop waiting for it to validate your worth, it arrives faster. Because your state is finally congruent with it. Your gratitude says, I'm ready. I've made space. I've already received. And the universe simply says, very well. So let gratitude be your anchor. Let it hold you steady in the waiting. Let it color your thoughts, your speech, your choices. Not the kind of gratitude that pleads or bargains, but the kind that declares, it is already mine. And for that, I give thanks. Say it often. Say it sincerely. Say it until it becomes the air you breathe. Thanks to my dream job. Thank you for placing me where I belong. Thank you for showing me that what I imagined is real. And then simply live as though the gift has already arrived. Because in truth, it already has. You don't need more effort. You don't need more credentials. You don't need to wait for the world to change its mind about you. All you need is a shift within. A quiet, unshakable decision to live from the end right now. The dream job isn't something you chase. It's something you awaken to. And you awaken to it the moment you stop asking if it's possible and start assuming it's done. You have already been hired in imagination. You've already walked through the door. You've already sat down at that desk and smiled with the knowing that this is where you were always meant to be. Feel that. Own it. Let it fill you up, not just once, but again and again, until your inner state becomes your only truth. No matter what appears, hold fast to the unseen. Let your assumptions be sacred. Let your inner world be more vivid than the outer one. And above all, trust the process. For it is perfect. It is precise. It is responding to you now. Every thought is a brick. Every feeling a beam. And you are building a life moment by moment in consciousness. So build with intention, imagine with conviction, and give thanks as though it is already yours. Because in the reality that matters most, it already is. There is no distance between you and what you seek. There is only remembrance. You are not becoming, you are returning. You are stepping back into who you've always been, who you dare to imagine, who now dares to live fully. So go to sleep tonight, not with longing, but with completion. Wake up not with striving, but with certainty. Let your breath, your posture, your very presence say one thing without a word. I'm already there. And soon the world will answer. Yes, you are.